Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Dayle.
We're sisters and best friends, and this is Proof It's Possible.
Jamie and I are complete opposites, but somehow through every stage of life, we stay on the same team. We're kicking the door wide open and sharing our morning coffee chats with you.
Join us as we chat about everything from chasing our dreams to entrepreneurship to family, friendship, and what other craziness we have going on that week.
Hi, welcome to Proof It's Possible. Today we have a special guest, Kristina Bartold, with us. She is a dear friend and the best cheerleader in the whole wide world, and the co-owner of Social Snippet. So thank you for coming, being a guest on our podcast.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here. And I think what's important for us to talk about, two things. One, we're in Calgary.
Yeah.
For the second of your two book launches, which has been like such a gift for us to be a part of. And two, if you're listening to this podcast and you've been listening a few times and you're like, oh, I wonder why that name sounds familiar. It's because in your first episode, you were like, why did we start a podcast? And then Jamie, I think you were like, because Kristina Bartold made us. So
it was actually Dayle.
It was Dayle.
It was me, I said it. So this is the famous Kristina Bartold.
Yeah.
And that is one of the services that the Social Snippet does offer. So give us a little rundown of your business and what you guys do so that people know.
Sure. So we are a social media and podcasting agency that helps entrepreneurs and small businesses build their communities online. So we really focus on helping entrepreneurs and really helping them like maximize their messaging so that they're able to make more sales online, connect with more people, kind of like you guys have definitely done with your podcast. That's been such a like raving success. But yeah, I'm so passionate about helping people like take their message and bring it to the next level.
Amazing.
And Kristina is the ultimate girl's girl.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for
Like
sure.
she is bringing women together, whether you like it or not. And we do like it. We love it.
We love it.
We had the best girls dinner last night.
We did.
We did.
We totally did. All the time we spend with you is the best time.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Yeah. So, Chris, we launched our books over the last couple of days, and Kristina has joined us so graciously and emceed both of our events. So that's been amazing. You are a public speaker, so talk to us a little bit about the places you speak, the things you speak about, and just that whole part of your life and business.
Yeah. So I feel like that's something I newer that I'm kind of getting into, and I've kind of come by it honestly. You know, those people who grow up, I think you might be one of them, but like, you know, those people that grow up and they're like, oh man, I can't wait to be on a stage speaking, like, or doing a keynote. Were you one of them?
I always said things like, when I'm famous one day, but I didn't know what I'd be famous for.
Okay, yeah.
So, like,
yeah. There's still time. The podcast will be how it gets there. Yeah, so one of the things I really have been focusing on in the speaking that I've been doing in the workshops I've been doing is teaching people how to build more community, like whether that's in their business or their life, but really like in their business, like I actually think that that's the secret sauce to growing a business. Like I think a lot of people will invest all this money in like huge funnels and they're like, you know, so worried about like ads and like all this stuff. And there's a time and place for that. But really what I think the secret sauce is of growing like an amazing business is having a really strong community. And so I teach people kind of how to build that, like, you know, looking at like their business and like where they could find power partners or people in their business that can support them. Where can referrals come from? Some of those basic things that I think we've forgotten now in the online age where, you know, I know your parents are entrepreneurs as well. Like your parents like weren't building online funnels. Like,
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Barely writing emails.
Yeah. So it's like bring back kind of the basics of like what it means to build community, which I know both of you are so passionate about too.
So when you talk about community, Kristina is the ultimate community builder. She knows everybody. I feel like everywhere you leave like little nuggets of wisdom. You serve people, whether it's your friends or your clients or just any room you walk into, you are always like leaving behind good vibes, good advice, business advice. So what would you say is the way to build a community? Like where did you find A, the skill to do it, and B, where have you found success in connecting with the right people? Because a lot of our listeners, I feel like, have reached out and talked to us about how they have a dream, but they're not sure where to start and how to start cultivating this new thing. Mm-hmm. So what is that? What did that look like for you? And what's your background as far as like, have you been doing this a long time? Is it a new thing?
Yeah, so it's so funny because the term community for me has been, I think, like, I don't know if you guys ever reflect on your lives. You just wrote a memoir, so yes.
I've done it, yeah.
Yeah. I look back on my life and it's like community is this like weaved theme that like I've always been like really connected with. So like I think about like my first job ever, I was a camp counselor. And I have always been the type of person that every job I've ever done, I'm like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Like, I don't know if anyone else that resonates with people. But there's all these people who are like, I love job hunting. I love working in different places, like all of that. I am loyal AF. So I would like work at camp and I'd be like, well, that's it. I'm going to go to university and then I'm going to come back and work at camp. Like that's what.
The senior camp counselor.
Yeah. One day.
And then you would achieve what you thought was your dream. And then you'd be like, oh, this was it. Okay, I think I might be made for a bit more, right? And not that there's anything wrong with that, but it just wasn't my dream. And so I worked at camp, loved camp because I loved the community it provided for people. And then I went to live in residence. I went to university. I was a residence don, like so an RA, for those of you who know what that is, where you kind of take care of your floor. Loved that. Was like, oh my God, I'm going to be a residence manager. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be so good at that. Spent a summer living in Ukraine where I volunteered at an orphanage for children with disabilities. Loved that. Was like, going to be a social worker. Like that must be what I do. So I left university. I worked in student activities where I create communities, and that's where Maria and I kind of met. And then I was a residence manager for years, and I managed residence managers, and then I was a student conduct manager. But all of those things that I did pre-social snippet were about facilitating communities for other people. Like I loved seeing people fit in and be part of whatever, like where they wanted to be in whatever season of life that looked like. So fast forward, during the pandemic, are you guys familiar with Myers-Briggs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I actually used to run that assessment. That was like my shtick. I don't know if you guys do you know this. Have I told you this before?
I have no idea. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we can do this later. But I still do Myers-Briggs for people. I'm a master facilitator. I've done it for years, like over 10. And so I do Myers-Briggs. And during the pandemic, and people are like, oh my gosh, like I love doing Myers-Briggs with you. Can you coach me? And I'd be like, okay, sure. So I started this like coaching business, became a life coach, did the whole thing. But what I loved was actually helping these people create side hustles. So every single one of my one-on-one coaching clients, they would leave with new careers.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is so weird. Like, I don't know, like I get how to build an email list because I just started doing it for my business. So I understand how to do social. I've been doing freelance social, like kind of part-time for years, but it just came so naturally to me. It's like, it was part of my gifting. So fast forward, Maria and I started the social snippet. We started with one client, 2, 3, now we have 60. And so it's full tilt. But really what I think like makes me a community builder is the fact that like, I think anybody can have a community. And I think what people focus on is the wrong thing. Like when people are building their online presence or their businesses, they're focused on sales, lead gen. How do you get more people in the top of funnel, right? And I'll use that same language, but it's not really about getting them there. It's about keeping them there. And how do you build relationships with people and build enough know, like, and trust with people that they want to work with you? So that's been kind of my journey into community building. And in terms of business, like I honestly think it's the secret sauce. Like I always say this because people are so focused on the wrong things in their business, especially new business owners. Like people will be like, I'm going to launch a podcast and I'm going to do 10 podcast episodes a week. And I'm like, why? No one wants to listen to that many podcast episodes, but they hear one thing and they're like obsessed with it. So I think community first kind of over everything. And I think people will feel that in their business. And sorry, this is so long-winded, but one last thing. When I built that personal development business, which was like a great business, I would sell out every program I did. A big piece of it was I leveraged my existing network. So I didn't go and start a business and be like, hi, here's my flyer, like come buy this from me. I sold to warm people. And so when anyone has a dream, go to the people in your life who are catalysts and expanders for you and say, hey, I have this thing going on. Do you know anyone who might need this? And maybe you do it for free the first few times. Or maybe you get feedback. Or you do it for free and you fucking hate it. And like, can you say on this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I was like, no, Josh can edit this. My husband edits these podcasts. But it's like, you hate it. You do it. And you're like, oh, like that was so bad. But actually when you're building your community and building your business at the beginning, it's really just about kind of like getting started and trying it.
What would you say is the best investment you've made in yourself for community, to build your own community and for you to be able to rise up from one client to 60 clients and build your business in a way that is like continuously, scaling. It's always scaling to the next thing.
So something I've always invested in is communities. So that was like number one thing that I've ever invested in. If like, I remember when we hired our fractional CFO and he looked at our numbers, he was like, you spent, I'll just say the number to be transparent with people. He's like, you spent $45,000 on masterminds. And we were like, yep, that was it. And then I was like, but when I tell you, and I like did, and I looked through all of our clients, I was like, there's about 5 clients that didn't come from one.
Yeah.
That were cold or like referrals of people from masterminds. Like I include all of that. And he was like, oh. And we're like, yeah, because that's how we make our business, right? Is we go into rooms that feel stretchy for us sometimes.
Yeah.
And we go and I don't sell in those rooms. Like that's a big part of my ethos. I don't go in and I'm like, oh, Jamie, like you need a podcast, like work with me. Here's my contract. It's like, hey, Jamie, like I see you have this mission and like, I think you'd be an amazing podcast host. If you ever want to talk about it, like I'm definitely here.
Right.
And like you leave that door open. And then if Jamie starts her own podcast, great. And I'd love to support her and it'd still probably be sitting here. Right. So I think it's really about building those relationships with people, but really what I've invested in is masterminds, in like group coaching. I haven't done a lot of one-on-one, which like is surprising to people. That's not my thing right now, but I love those rooms that feel stretchy. So I'm a coach now in Fast Foundations. That was a big room for me, but we recently did Chris Harder's roundtable and that's where we met. And then I got to meet Dayle through Jamie. And that was an expansive room, but it wasn't expansive because like, and we were talking about this last night, like Chris does a phenomenal job. He's excellent. Yeah, he's exceptional. Amazing. Like we're all Chris, like little groupie fans over here. But the power wasn't Chris. It was sitting in the room with all these other Canadians and and being like, wow, that's so powerful that you shared that, or that was so interesting. And I think all of us left with a bit of a different perception. And sometimes that's the power. So I would say in terms of scaling our business, we've definitely invested in network. But it's not just enough to, sorry, I feel like all my answers, I'm like, I have 38 points. It's not enough to just invest in that network. You have to pour back in.
Yes. So this is what I would say about Kristina is that every room that you walk into, kind of like Dayle was saying, you leave it like better than you entered it. But
such a pump up over here.
With no expectation in return.
But the thing is that there's a lot of people that go to these masterminds and keep to themselves and they soak it all in, but they're not pouring into the community as well. Like, so what advice would you give someone who's sitting here listening and is like, I'm so shy and I want to go to a round table. I want to go to a mastermind group, but I don't know how to kind of like break the barrier of being, the personality that you are. You walk into every room and everyone's just drawn to you because you're this high vibe woman. How does somebody who's not naturally that person become that person for those few moments or those few days or whatever it looks like?
The low vibe women.
I'm not talking about the low vibe women. I'm just saying the ones that are a little less social. Shy. A little less social.
I'm just teasing. Actually, I just laughed because we host these dinners, the High Vibe Women like series. And my friend messaged me one time and she's like, you're missing a key demographic of people. Low vibe people. Low vibe people need somewhere to hang out. I'm like,
it's not with me.
Yeah, someone's going to make that. Yeah. I've just given someone a business idea.
I think Netflix is tackling that, and those people are happy at home.
Yeah, Netflix and late night bars. Yeah. Yeah, so I do know that, like, I definitely have a +1 because I'm, like, quite extroverted, right? So, like, that's been, like, and I would say I'm decently warm. So, unless you're my husband who's listening to this, and he's like, I have feedback. But it's, I think really like one of the things I will tell people, I think a lot of people overinvest at the beginning. And I think numbers will tell you that. I'm sure our mutual friend Stacey will tell you the same thing. It's like people will go and they're going to invest in, like, I recently was talking to someone and she was like, I really want to pay off all my debt and my business debt. And I was like, okay. And she's like, yeah, it's like 60 grand. And I was like, that's quite a bit of business debt for a online service-based business. Like, curious, like, how'd you get here kind of thing. And she was like, a lot of people at the beginning told me I needed that $15,000 coach. I needed that $20,000 round table. I needed that, like, $15,000 mastermind. So we made investments that felt stretchy, but not sacrificial. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so when you show up in a room, like I remember when we did Fast Foundations online, it was maybe like $3,500 American. And we were making like $8,000 a month. Like, like very transparently, we were just in the beginning. It was like maybe month 4 of working. And I was like, I need to be in that room. Mm-hmm. I need to be in that room and I'm going to lend the money to myself. And because I believe in myself that I'm going to make that money back. And I didn't go in there and be like, I need $8,000. Like someone owes me this money. Like,
you're like, you better just write me a check now because I don't know if I'm going to make this, but I have to.
Who's paying this?
Yeah, I am not leaving this room until I have a client that is willing to pay me $8,000.
But when you come with that expectation, you'll never find $8,000.
Totally.
Exactly. And sometimes the $8,000 doesn't, I did the math on the round tables, like, cause I was curious. Like I was like, did I get ROI on this? And ROI for me sometimes isn't money. Like it's often relationships. It's like relationship capital.
Somebody teaching you something in return that led you to make more money in the future.
100%. You know what I think about all the time, Jamie? I think about you in that round table, and I think about like the value people provide. It wasn't something I said. I wasn't going to be like, I said something so valuable. But Chelsea, Isogenics Chelsea, so she's like a Isogenics team leader. She's like a global leader of the year or something like that.
She's insane. If you ever want Isogenics, reach out. I'll pass along her information. She's amazing, and I think she was the global leader for all of Isogenics in the world this year, I think.
Yeah, we might be misquoting that, and if not, you're our global leader, Chelsea. So if you need Isogenics or if you want to join her downline, please get in touch. But it's funny because I remember you going up there talking about like posting on social, and you found that like hard and like whatever, and I was like, just post, like just get up there and post. And Chelsea was like, actually, like, yeah, like post on social, but a lot of the people who need what you have are looking for you like in their dark moments.
Yeah.
And they are going to binge things that are going to be the secret things. And that resonated with me. Like I left that and I was like, how many clients I have that their ideal client isn't going to DM them?
Yeah.
Like their ideal client is going to buy.
Maybe stories isn't for me because stories disappear. You know, maybe mine need to be more flat posts. That was the feedback. That's what I took away from what Chelsea was saying, is that something that someone can go back to when nobody else is looking. Sure. So it changes the perspective of things for sure.
And Jamie, I think that's a limiting belief of yours because Jamie will literally post stories, and the other day she posted like a caption like over her face, and I was like, Jamie, you're so hot and smart.
Start from the beginning. First, she gave me trouble for not posting captions, and I was like, you know what? I remembered today. I am a genius. I remembered. All proud. And like within 5 seconds, she was like, it's over your face. And I was like, I can't win with you, okay?
I'm just saying that if you don't want unsolicited social media and business feedback, don't be my friend. Like that is,
we want it. We need it.
That's just where I'm at.
We want it.
But yeah, I think those rooms like stretch you, right? And they make you think differently. And so I think like finding like appropriate rooms for where you're at in your business is really important. So like asking yourself, okay, if I'm making, $100,000 this year, should I spend $65,000 on a mastermind?
Totally. Well, and something else that
Probably
I
not.
also
Probably not.
Feels like totally.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But like to give you a good example, what I love, because I also think finding the guru that fits you is a very important thing. And so I'm like you said, we brought up Chris, we've talked about Lori in the past. Like I love what they bring to the table. So I am already confident in investing in their things.
Yeah.
But one thing that I like during COVID, for instance, like Chris was doing free things. They both have podcasts to listen to. Find people you already resonate with, and then decide that, you know what, that's the right thing for me. Or if you do need social media help, find the social media person. Don't go looking for business advice, or numbers advice, because you're actually looking for accounting information.
Yes.
And you sign up for a social media guru, because they're not the same person. So find the person, and that's been valuable for me.
My biggest piece of advice is that if you are more reserved, but you want to be more like Kristina one day, you don't get from A to B
in your
overnight.
first day.
You have to start by stretching your limits just a tiny little bit by going to a wine, women, and well-being event or something similar in your neighborhood, going to a high vibe dinner event, going to something like that, and then working your way up to a round table where it's more intimate and you're
sharing way more
vulnerable and things like that. Like there has to be small little tranches. You don't just get to go and take the big blast off and then expect these wonderful results when you haven't done any of the work.
Big time. For sure. And I think it's because people expect that, right? Like, so Alex Hormozi is an amazing example of this. And I think about this literally every single day. Is Alex Hormozi talks about how he was you guys know Alex Hormozi? Yeah. He was an overnight success. Like everyone was obsessed with Alex. So and he was like, I've been grinding over here for 10 years.
Yeah.
This is not an overnight thing. And we feel that, right? We see somebody online, we see somebody in a room, and we're like, oh my God, I can't believe they made it. And it's no.
Yeah, when I won Top 40 Under 40, people were like, I wanted to be an interior designer. Like, how did you make your career and all these things? I'm like, I worked very hard for 20 full years. And this is the very first time I've been recognized for any reason. You know what I mean? Like, other than people love their homes and I have happy clients. But outside of just my business, there was no recognition whatsoever. And that was totally fine. I didn't need any recognition or expect any. But it almost had that feeling of being like an overnight success that I was like, guys, I've been doing this since I was almost a teenager. This has been my job, and I'm 40 years old now. So I'm been working at it. That's it. It was not an overnight success. That's the one thing that you don't see.
Mm-hmm.
You only see the person once they are on the rise. Yeah, exactly.
And everyone's looking for that business rocket fuel, right? Like we're all, especially as personal brands,
For sure.
we're all looking for, even I have a friend and I'm always like, you need to post more. Like, like which friend? All friends.
Oh, it's me.
Yeah. He knows who he is. But like, I'm always like, you need to post more. Like, you're so smart. You're so good at this. Like, talk about this. Talk about this. Talk about this. And he's just like, no, I don't want to. And I have to just respect that he doesn't want that.
That's part of his personal brand, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Let's talk about personal brands. What are they and why are they important for businesses?
Oh boy. So not to plug my own podcast, I did an amazing episode of our friend Marina Middleton on this, on my podcast. It was one of my first episodes ever because she's the personal brand queen, but she's a genius.
She's amazing.
Honestly, I spent all my time watching her Instagram stories and all my other time chirping her about the way she wears her jacket over her shoulders. Like, she will never put her arms inside.
Yeah, no, I
like
that
it.
too.
I do like that.
I'm not available for that. What if you're cold?
You gotta look at
beauty is pain, so
Beauty is pain. I did walk down the streets of Calgary yesterday, essentially like in
what are you talking about?
like shorts and a t-shirt in the end of September. So a personal brand is a little bit different like when you're running a business. And I think every business, whether you're brick and mortar or you are a product-based business, you should have a personal brand for yourself. And your personal brand is like, it's your Kristina Bartold, right? It's like your Jamie Francis. It's your personal brand that encompasses what you do and how you like to do it. So you can showcase friends, you can showcase family, you can showcase day in the life, but you want to be showing the behind the scenes of your business. Why I think a personal brand is actually maybe more important than a brand is because it actually serves future things. So when you're building, I have a friend who sold an amazing 7-figure business, you know who I'm talking about, and she sold an amazing business, but she didn't have a personal brand.
Right.
All these years of her building up all of that rapport with all these people, all these connections, like a missed opportunity.
Right.
Because once the business is sold, her whole brand moved with the business. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But look at Chris and Lori. Like, not to like, I feel like all my podcast episodes, I'm like, I say
Same
Chris
with
and
us.
Lori,
Yeah.
like, and then Chris and Lori. But like, Chris and Lori have pivoted so many times in their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had Chris on my podcast, like he was talking about how like they used to do network marketing, and then when they moved from network marketing, they started doing personal brand, and then they started doing their podcast. And they were given the pivot and the privilege of the pivot and the trust because people loved them.
Yes.
So no matter what you're going to do in the future, right? Like you ladies just launched an amazing books, right? And there's more to come. So when you guys are, best-selling, New York Times best-selling authors on your next book, or you're on the stages, or you're running huge events, people have given you like the permission to pivot because they trust you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so really building that trust is important. And that was the same for me. I used my personal development Instagram. I turned it into Kristina Bartold, Canadian entrepreneur, social snippet woman. And no one blinked. Like, I have a master's degree in leadership. Nobody was like, social media, hey, like wondering about that. Like, people were like, oh, that's so cool that that's something that she's doing, right? So I think it's about like building that trust with people. It's crucial.
For sure. Well, and I always say nobody cares about your brand. People only care about other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the truth. Like, if somebody makes, beautiful sweaters, it's like, I'm buying the sweater because I like the person.
Mm.
If the sweater is like super cute, I might end up finding them. But if I found them as a person to be like not in line with my values or, have something that wasn't in line with me, I'd probably be like, oh, I'll find a sweater at the mall.
Yeah.
Instead, or whatever. But you find people that you like and it's like, oh, you make bracelets? I should buy some bracelets. Or you make this. And the people that I do like actively, regularly support, it's because I genuinely like them as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So
I totally agree. And I don't know if you guys have done this. I've done this. Maria and I have done this many times. I have paid more for a service from someone I like than a cheaper service from someone who I didn't get a good vibe from.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right? We love working with people we like. And that's human nature, right? And that's actually like the whole philosophy behind social and influencers, right? We see somebody, we follow a few influencers. I think Birds Papaya is an example. You guys know Sarah Landry. Mm-hmm. So she lives locally to me. So like everybody is like, Birds Papaya, like all the time. Yeah. And why I think Sarah's so good at what she does is because people can see themselves in her.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so they're like, I'm a mom. I'm a mom of 3, right? Like, that's great. Does she have 4 now?
I don't
think so.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, so like, see, I don't know, like, but like everyone's obsessed, right? So it's like, they're like, oh, I'm a mom of 3. Wow, that's so cool. that romper, that looks great on her. I have the same body type as her. Interesting, right? Like, oh, she
my
loves...
body has changed since I've had kids too. You know, like all
Yes,
the things. I used
sure.
to have these beliefs that I had to be tiny and teensy and all the things, and now I'm just letting myself be what I am. And
yeah.
she has all of these different pillars that have absolutely nothing to do with anything but her own personal brand.
Yeah.
And then it influences people to buy whatever she's selling.
And then that's actually why brands approach her, right? Because they're like, oh, my ideal client likes what you do. So for example, me and Maria recently did like a little mini influencer deal. I'm doing influencer because I'm not an influencer, but deal with a hotel. Their ideal client is entrepreneurs, small businesses running team retreats. So
Right.
they gave us a stay in return for us running a free retreat or a team retreat and making some content for them. It was a no-brainer for us. It was great because we needed the space, but also like it was great for them. They got a huge engagement on a reel. So it's really about that give and take when we're talking about brands. But with personal brands, it's like when we have these things that we stand for, and we're like, this is what I'm about. Like I'm about these things. People start to like glue themselves to that, and they glue themselves to what you're about, what you like, what you don't like, you know? And so I see this all the time, with my dog. Like people will reach out to me out of the friggin' blue and they'll be like, how's Patrick? And I'm like, why do you care? Like, I love that you care, but that's awesome. They'll be like, I have a German Shepherd too. Or I once had a German Shepherd that lived on my block. Yeah. Right? I'm building no like and trust with them about stuff that isn't about business. Right. So I'm probably better positioned to sell to them than a cold DM,
someone that just comes out with some sort of round table.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Okay, so one last question for you.
Sure.
What comes to mind first when I say, what is your proof it's possible story for you?
Oh God. I should have known this was coming. We made jokes about it before we got on. So for me, I know this is like the most privileged proof it's possible story. So I'm going to just say this. I'm going to give it a caveat of this is privileged. So for me, it was the fact that when I was working a ton, and we started our business kind of at the same time, and we were working on the business, and I was working a ton. And I started to see a vision for myself that no one else saw. And that was really hard for me to talk to people about, because people had such high expectations of me. I come from an immigrant family. I'm the first in my family to go to university. I'm the breadwinner in our family. So all of these things, I had a 6-figure job that the job I was in was my end game job. I was 28 in it. So everyone thought it was so great. Why would you leave that? That's nuts. That's something that you would pass up on and all of that. And so I think for me, a big piece of it is that it was the ability to believe in myself and believe that it was possible for me, even if other people couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So my family didn't see it. My husband didn't see it at first. Now he does. But it was really hard at the beginning because I had so much self-doubt. And then I also received why would you leave? That's crazy. That's so hard. And I had to really motivate myself that it was possible. But I was really lucky to say, no, that's not everyone's situation. Some people they start businesses because they have to, and I didn't have to. And that's what makes my business and my it feels vocational, because I chose to do this over what I thought was a different dream. So yeah, it's for me then, if anyone has that calling, Keisha always says this, get married. She always says if you have the calling, it's because you have the skills to do it.
For sure.
And so, yeah, I think that would be my reminder to folks who might be looking for their proof it's possible story.
Amazing. I love it. That's so awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. We love it. And
Yeah.
thank you for coming to Calgary. And thank you for being the MC for our book
You've
launches.
literally made this
and thank
so
you for
fun.
being our greatest cheerleader. We love you so much.
I love you guys. And I'm so excited because this is just the beginning for us all.
It is. Yay.
Amazing.
We are so grateful you're here.
It would mean the world to us if you'll subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel and leave us a review.
If you want to hear more from us, go to proofitspossible.com to join our mailing list and find our social links so you don't miss a thing.
Thanks, and chat next time.